Great to see you all hanging in there. I know people are flagging because there's been so much energy dispensed over the last 24 hours. But if you can just hold it together for another few hours, because we've got two really important sessions coming up and our finale as well. Make sure you're here for the finale. So welcome back, everyone, from lunch. Our breakout session in the council chamber is with the Woodcraft group, who are, sorry, I've just realised, I think the Woodcraft group finished earlier, but then celebrating their 100 years is what we wanted to say. And now it's time for our session on international peace and international cooperative development. I've been honoured for the past couple of years to chair the International Cooperative Working Group at Co-operatives UK, and it's been phenomenal to find out what's going on around the world, and you'll find out more about what that group's been doing. But I'm going to hand over to our very eloquent host and a wonderful, wonderful international cooperator, Pete Westall. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose. I love the word wonderful, wonderful. If you could just do one more time for me. I accept completely it is after lunch. I accept completely we are getting towards the end for some of us a really long week. But I don't think there's anything more important in the UN International Year of Cooperation, on the actual day of cooperatives itself across the globe, to talk about peace and to talk about cooperatives coming together for economic development, social development, and to help the planet. That has got to be at the forefront of everybody's minds. I've just had the absolute pleasure and benefit of being upstairs with a wonderful youth network. Debbie White from the Co-op group has facilitated that. So many great people. And the one question that the 3-4 young people I spoke to, what is the Co-op doing to generate solutions? I've been in Congress for 20, 25 years or so on and so forth, and I will confess, in previous years, not all but some, it's felt like a talking shop. It's felt the same issues we're talking about, the same issues we're saying, what can we possibly do, who knows about us? But this week, with the ICA General Assembly, with Congress the last day and a half, I actually felt inspired. And I feel genuinely inspired. And the reason I feel inspired is because people are talking about action. The CM50 group, Phil from Midcounties, Debbie from Central, Shireen from the Co-op group, and many of our international colleagues were there Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, and talking about genuine difference that co-ops can make to help so many people across the globe. That in itself is brilliant. But the bit that's really brilliant is the fact every one of those CEOs and every conversation I've had this week has been talking about the power of the collective and bottom-up solutions, not top-down. We should not be talking about what can we do in a benevolent fashion to help. What we should be doing is saying, what cooperative solutions can we put in place to facilitate self-help? And that's crucial. It also happens to be a co-op value, which is quite useful. So to explore that topic a bit further, I've got a really esteemed panel of guests. And what I'm going to do is ask each one to introduce themselves, talk for 3-4 minutes or so about their difference. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. We'll try and do this bit in about 35 minutes or so, and then really open up the floor to questions on anything to do with that. So without further ado, many people will read the Co-op News. I'm a massive fan, I'm sure all of us are. One of the journalists behind that, one of the driving forces is Anka. So Anka, what are we doing about Co-op international development?
Thank you, Pete. Yes, let me tell you a little bit more about Co-op News first, in case you were not there for yesterday's session, because our executive editor, Rebecca, talked about Co-op News a little bit as well. We were set up in 1871 by the cooperative retail sector in the UK. And at the time, they felt the need to have their own press, because they felt that the traditional press didn't really write about co-ops, didn't cover the sector much, and they felt the need to have a tool to share knowledge and information. And I think what's interesting is that from its early beginnings, Co-ops News covered stories on cooperatives internationally. So there is a report in one of the Co-op News editions on the first ICA Congress in 1895 in London. And we've continued to do so. So our ethos has stayed the same throughout, and that's to serve the cooperative movement in the UK and worldwide. And as we were having conversations with different organizations involved in cooperative development around the world, we realized that in recent months, they've had tremendous challenges. So we wanted to explore that more and to find out how they were coping with this. And that's why our latest issue focuses on international cooperative development. And we talked to a range of organizations in the US and internationally. Organizations from the US that are active in international cooperative development have been severely impacted by the closure of the US International Development Agency, USAID. In some cases, they have seen all of their income lost overnight, literally overnight. In some cases, it was 50%. In some cases, it was 30%. But we wanted to get an overall picture. So luckily, we were able to access a document that Politico magazine published a while ago. A few months ago, and this document is a US Congress document, and it mentions all of the organizations that have lost funding due to the closure of USAID. And it's a really long document, 280 pages. But we looked at it, we analyzed it, and along with my colleague Alice, we were able to come up with the list of 9 cooperative organizations that were active in cooperative development, or that maybe were not cooperatives, but were helping to set up co-ops internationally. And these organizations have altogether lost $211 million through the closure of USAID. And that's about 30%, almost 30% of their income. But I think, in a way, there are reasons to be positive, to feel positive, to feel a little bit positive about this, because I think what has happened is the movement has sort of come together. So in the US, the NCBA CLUSA, which is the National Apex for Cooperatives, has launched a campaign to encourage the movement to continue to fund in its international development work. And they are in the process of raising those funds now. Likewise, the World Credit Union Conference, World Credit Union WOCU, yeah, World Council of Credit Unions, sorry, it's been a long week. The World Council of Credit Unions has launched a fundraising campaign, and they were able to raise the funds needed to continue working in 3 countries that they think are the priority countries for them. They still weren't able to continue operating in some countries, but at least some of their work is going ahead. And yes, there is also a lot of lobbying done in Congress to ensure that the co-ops involved in international cooperative development in the US are able to secure some sort of funding, but it probably won't be the same amount as before. And also what is happening is some of them are having to shift the narrative a little bit. So in the past, they would have talked about cooperatives helping to tackle inequality, and now they have to talk about how through their work, they are helping communities where they are, and they're through that preventing further migration. So if they want to ensure they continue to receive some sort of funding under the current administration, they kind of have to shift the narrative a little bit. So this is just to give you an overall context of what's happening. Oh, and also what is worth adding is this is not just the US we're talking about, because USAID was funding so many projects internationally, and other cooperative development organizations in other countries have been impacted by this indirectly, and they cannot continue to do their work as they used to in the past.
So thank you, that's great. You've mentioned the word narrative a couple of times in that, clearly as a journalist yourself. We've heard some really, really powerful stories. For Rosa at International Supper last night, Debbie Robinson talked about the Malawi partnership. That's a really powerful narrative of action that can be taken. What part does storytelling, do you think, play in this, in getting movement to act together?
I think it's very important. I mean, we see this as our role at Co-op News as well. Our role is to connect the movement, and through storytelling, we are able to connect the movement. And I can give you an example of that, a concrete example. We did a feature on co-ops in Palestine. We did several features, but the first feature we wrote about co-ops in Palestine had such a response from the movement. We heard from 3 different cooperative organizations in the UK and internationally who got in touch because they wanted to support co-ops in Palestine. So they wanted me to share the contact details of the person I had interviewed, and they wanted to support the movement. So just through raising awareness of what is happening, we can get co-ops to get involved and support initiatives internationally.
That's perfect. Thank you for that. And I'm sure we'll come back to Palestine and other elements later in the session. So I turn now, if I can, to Francesca from Lego Co-op. Could you talk to me about what Lego Co-op is and your role in development?
Yes, for sure. First of all, sorry for my English, I'm an Italian, so okay. Lega Co-op is an Apex national association. We have more than 10,000 cooperatives that are associated, and all sectors. So we have housing cooperatives, we have agriculture cooperative, fishery cooperative, retailer, consumer cooperative, cultural cooperative, and social cooperative that born in the 80s in our country. Inside the Lega Co-op, I'm managing different offices, like one is International Development Cooperation. And also when I started, because when I was very young, I created a women cooperative, research cooperative, and I get associated to Lega Co-op, and I enter in this fantastic world. And at that time, I funded a specific tool that is still alive for International Development Cooperation, that is Alieus, that is an association that acts like an NGO, but it's different, because Alieus acts like working with the ICA members, with the family connection, and also to guarantee local ownership. So we are not working with cooperators around the world, but we are working directly with some partners, local partners. So that is something that is completely different. And Lega Co-op was a founding member of the ICA, so the International Co-operative Alliance. Next year, we will celebrate 140 years. But I'm not look so old, no? Yeah, 140 years of cooperation. That is, I think, fantastic.
We have 180 years, we have 130 years of the ICO. So one of the things which, whenever we talk about development always fits, I guess, into 2 different areas. There is the longer term, how do we develop to get sustainable economies? And then there is immediate humanitarian aid, whether it be a natural disaster or whether it be through inhumanity. How do you differentiate the role that Lega Co-op plays between those 2?
Yeah, this is a very important question. First of all, I think that is very important because starting from our cooperatives that are associated to Lega Co-op, that they are incredible solidarity. So when something happens around the world, they are the first to give some support, some money, some help. And so that was the case. I also prepared some slides. I don't know if it would be possible to present, but okay.
With a green button.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, wow. So in the case of Ukraine, so we started with different fundraising. So as Lega Co-op, we were able to collect almost 110,000 euro, and then also through NGO that were specialized for emergency support, now we just support the population. At the same time, our consumer cooperatives, they were able to collect more than 1 million. And our retailing cooperatives, they were able to collect more than almost 2 million euros of contribution. So I mean, this incredible power solidarity, we just then converge to a specific structure that in some cases we have inside our ecosystem. Sometimes we work with other, NGOs or stakeholders that are active in emergency. And starting from the emergency to, long-term corporate development. That is the case that next week in Lega Coop we will have a side event, because you know that in Roma we will be the 2 days of reconstruction, an international conference on reconstruction of Ukraine, and will be located in Rome. So we organize a side event where we underline the power of cooperatives, so the power of cooperation. This will be particularly to rebuild in agro-food sector. So that's really another part that is so important to create advocacy, because if we can work together to create advocacy of the power of the cooperatives, then you can find some specific policies, some programs, some funds, and then you have the opportunity to have some concrete action. And I don't know if I have time, I can go for another, but it's
No,
okay.
you're okay. Yeah, no, go on, you're okay.
Another example, because I have also my heart. I know that there are also some friends from Palestine here today. I have also the opportunity to meet them in 2023 before this incredible situation. So in this case, again, so we are trying to do some advocacy process also with our Italian government, that is more, create more, is more sensible there in Palestine and not in our country. So this is something that they try to develop some specific funds, and it's important to work directly with the cooperative movement, because again, also in this situation, I think that the power to rebuild a future, the key point will be the cooperatives. And we had also international development project, also funded by EU, but the problem was also that we create some infrastructure in Gaza that you can imagine now they are completely destroyed, but we need now to think. And also we were focusing with them about also for the future about the impact, potential impact of the social cooperatives. So we had also the opportunity in April, we host a Palestinian delegation, and together we were working, also analyzing what best practices, what type of cooperation could be, strategic for a new future for Palestine. So I think that also this opportunity creates also long-term sustainable development and also cooperative family.
That's superb, thank you. And there's some really important work obviously going on in there. You also chair on behalf of the ICA, the International Co-operative Development Platform. Just a bit about what is the ICA, International Co-operative Development Platform, and how can it help this
International Co-operative Alliance Development Platform. I think it's a fantastic, working group. It's one of the 5 thematic committees of the ICA. And we had last meeting in, sorry for the shoulder, 2 days ago. And so that is composed by direct members of the ICA or indirect members of the ICA that are working for international development cooperation, promoting, of course, the cooperative model for development cooperation. And so 2 days ago, we were, together with NCBA CLUSA, with OCDC, that almost disappeared, and other international development cooperation around the world, also considering the new situation, geopolitical situation today, because, there is an erosion of international solidarity. There is an incredible rise of nationalist movement, and this is something that we need to face now, and but also not only thinking, brainstorming together, but with practical action. So we have a strategy for next 5 years. So we just finalize better the strategy, considering the new situation of today. And we are ready to do some practical action. Just for an example, I've just bring on the table one of these action. So we decide to start a mapping of different donors and stakeholders that are, in one word, against the Trump policies, but could be strategic, and also mapping nationally and internationally, all together, sharing and starting to co-project something to build again, no, the international development. Also because, and last thing, and then I stop my, also because there is an incredible impact, not only international development cooperation, because our country, we received some official letter by the USA government to our enterprises that who wants to continue to work with USA, they have to stop with light diversity, inclusion, and equity policies. So I think that is something that we need to be aware, and we need to react together as a cooperative movement, because, I mean, we can make the difference.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Turning to Donna. So those of you who were here yesterday will have heard from Noel, who is the CEO and principal of Climes, life insurance or insurance cooperative based in the Philippines, who spoke very well and very passionately about what Climes do. And he's just sat in front of me, so I'm very glad I said that. Donna is here. You're also Vice President of Climes, but I guess the bit we're really interested in, you're also the CEO of the Philippines educational part. So perhaps you can tell us a bit about what you do.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to flash some slides as well so that we can have a better appreciation of what we're doing. So the Climes cooperative model was discussed also yesterday by our president and CEO, Noel, and we're actually here supported by our chairperson of the board, just here, and some of the directors of Climes. So it has grown over the years. We're a 53-year-old cooperative in the Philippines. And because of that, we have also several affiliates, and part of the cooperative business model that we now enjoy, that the 4,000 plus cooperatives in the Philippines that we have already reached 10 million, but insuring because as our core business, we are a cooperative insurer, we have reached already 35 million lives. In fact, we'd like to share this. When we were here in 2019, upon the invitation of COP College during the centennial celebration, it was here when we discussed about, now we're not going to talk about the bottom line, but we're going to talk about the people. So we said, okay, let's insure 20 million lives by 2024. And magnificently, it's a collective effort. We did great because we hit the 35 million people. So that's something that we'd like to share. What's the cooperative, the solidarity, the global solidarity that we share, that once it's embedded in every one of us, then there are really good results and magnificent results, you know. And so part of that was the creation of the Cooperative College of the Philippines. So it used to be like just a training arm of Climes. It's really for financial literacy. But because Philippines is a vulnerable country, as you know, we're facing 20 plus typhoons in a year, and with climate change, we just had our second or first typhoon this year. So that's really a big difference, because that's how it is right now. And we saw that there's a need not only for empowering our leaders financially, but also educating them in terms of what the cooperative identity is, and also, you know, ingraining to the younger generation that there's really a need for them to go through the levels of cooperative management, but still steeped in the cooperative identity. So that's really the essence of the college that we have set up, mirroring the Cooperative College of UK. So that's how it came to be. And we're talking about cooperative development, but in the Philippines, as a country in the global south, you know how it's been affecting us. I cannot overemphasize that. But our strength lies in our cooperative principles. Particularly, I just like to highlight principles 2, 5, 6, 7 were discussed in the CM50. Those were the pillars, Pete, right? So that's we're just a tiny speck in the world's 1 billion cooperators, but I believe as engines of peace, resilience, and solidarity, that is really our strength. So when some of the, Anka, when you mentioned about some of the funding from the USAID that has folded up in the Philippines, the cooperatives for Climes, for example, we were the first to respond and tell them that it's okay because everyone's here, we are here. And so we continued on our activities, for example, in Palawan and in Bohol. So those were areas that are also heavily, disaster-prone areas in our country. So we can showcase that even in a vulnerable country facing different climate risks and other risks, we are as a cooperative can stand together and build back better. And so one of the examples that we'd like to highlight is innovation. So yesterday, we've been listening a lot about innovation, and we believe that the innovation starts with the people. It has to be like an organizational resilience. It has to start from the people. But the people should also be capacitated well. And in order to do that, when we capacitate our people, we are able to respond to the needs of the community. So now we're offering our parametric solutions as the parametric climate insurance that's called Weather Protect Insurance, because we have seen that there is a need for faster payouts of claims after disaster, right? So with that, we have initiated this in 2020 at a time of pandemic, and then we're now on our year 4 with 324 cooperatives covered, and that's reaching about 1 million household members in the country. So in the Philippines, there's about 12 million farmers that are accounted for, but this is just a tiny number, So that's why we're encouraging everybody to be a part of this. And we were also testing how it can, how it will work because parametric is so different from the traditional insurance, and it has a lot of literacy that has to be done. But in 2021, when we piloted this insurance, we were able to really test that, it works. So that was Typhoon Rai. Locally, it's called Odette. And we're able to pay out around 35,000 USD, and that's about 35,000 farmers also that were benefiting from it. And we have this, so hinged on Principle 7, concern for community. We have our unit also in CLIMES called the Community Action Affairs, that's the CARES. Community action response to emergency services. So it addresses both disaster relief efforts and also preparedness efforts. So we do capacity trainings and also equip our farmers, the cooperatives themselves and also their members. And recently, we were awarded by the World Food Program. So we're able to scale our Weather Protect Insurance to their assistance in technical assistance facility, and focusing on 5 disaster-prone areas. So since we have just started, we want to see what's the effect of this. Maybe next time we can also share some of the learnings and the impacts about this project.
So,
okay.
We're a little bit conscious of time, but you're okay?
Yes. So that's just a difference from the past, when we were able to respond to Typhoon Yolanda in 2013. And we have this innovation on specifically on focusing on gender as well, not only for climate plus gender, because there's also many farmers also that are women farmers that are affected, and also in the workplace. And then we also have the virtual reality. We ventured into that. And the Takaful development, that's something new that's designed for our Muslim brothers and sisters. Yes, so this is something of the innovation that we see, that it's not only because of the products and services, but really what you said, it's community-owned, culturally appropriate, and really embedded in the cooperative identity. And hopefully later on, we also venture into renewable energy federation in the cooperative federation in the Philippines. And maybe lastly, I can share about our adaptation practices, because as an insurance, it's really about risk mitigation, but we do adaptation practices because it's about, everybody's interconnected, and we want to show that the cooperatives are really the natural members in the community that can, much of our ecosystem. And so our actions must also be the cooperative actions. And yes, we were able to hand down the check to Paul early this year, as there was a call for global solidarity on the international.
Can I just come in on that?
Yes, sure.
There's so much we could unpack on here, and that was brilliant, Donna. But one of your earlier slides, and you talked about one of the things you do is around crisis, and then it's around recovery. And then it's around development.
Yes.
And that, of course, for those who may remember, that's why we set up the Fund for International Co-op Development, which was covered in the Co-op News, etc. That initiative was supported by the boards of Co-op Group, Midcounties and Central initially. and Lincoln, so don't forget Lincoln. But it was also helped come to life with Rose and the team at Co-ops UK and so many others. And the bit we were delighted with is when Climb became the first international organisation to join us. So I guess, relatively briefly, why?
Oh, yeah, because we said that we know recently that 30% of the world food production really comes from the global south. It's from us. Even the rice production is about 90% from the Philippines. Philippines alone. I know not from the Philippines, but Southeast Asia alone. So when we do not plant a seed, then what are we waiting for? So that's really the essence of us as cooperators. We don't have, we are born because of self-help, self-responsibility. And so it's not like it's just a tiny part of the other part of the world, but this has a very big global impact. So that's the message that we want to convey, that no matter the amount is, as long as you put your heart into it, and that's really you as a cooperator, then you must do it, and then don't wait for tomorrow, do it now.
That's perfect. Thank you for that, Donna. Quick round of applause for Donna, because I think we need.
Thank you.
So it depends how mischievous I'm thinking, because I've now got Paul on stage with me. Paul, I guess from my point of view, there have been times when any co-op, including the one I represent, hasn't really reflected the views of members. They've done what they think is right, which goes back to this top-down bit. I will say it because I'm a fan. I think what Paul has done and what the group have done over the last few years in particular has listened to members, not least the National Member Council, of which I happen to be a proud part, but has then reflected those members' views. So, Paul, your views on this and how have you reflected the views of members?
Thanks, Pete. So if I look back over the last 15 to 18 months, we have heard from literally tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of members, be that through AGM motions in 24 or 25, be it through correspondence, be it through joining events, be it through the National Members Council. We have heard them say one of their biggest concerns is conflict, division and hatred, both in the UK and abroad. And we have also heard them say they expect their cooperative, so in that circumstance, co-op group, to take action as best they can to address those issues. We did a joining event last autumn, and it had 15,000 people fill in a relatively complex piece of member engagement. 95% said, we want the co-op to take action to help support those who would build peace and tackle division, hatred and conflict. As a result of that, we launched in February this year, following approval by our National Members Council, because it's in relation to member mandate. I don't decide what the co-op campaign's on. The board doesn't decide what the co-op group campaign's on. The National Members Council, as representatives of our members, decide what the co-op group campaign on. They approved a campaign called Hate Divides Communities, Cooperation Builds Them, which is now one of our 3 frontline campaigns in group. The point about, so that has started entirely because members have told us, okay? The second point I would make is that within that, then, there are a number of elements, but 2 or 3 I will call out. Fundamentally, the campaign has got an ask that says of government, and already thousands of members have written to their MPs, put co-ops at the heart of how you rebuild communities. So saying to the British government, whatever aid budget you have left, make sure some of that goes to co-ops, because we know co-ops build peace more effectively than anything else. Rwanda, Guatemala, Bosnia, right? So there's a really simple ask of government to prioritise co-op funding globally in what they do, okay? I'm with the Foreign Office Minister this Tuesday, and I'll be making the same point to him again, okay? And then underneath that, there are a number of things. So development, Climbs were the first international group to join the International Fund for Co-operative Development, of which I'm a very proud director. I know you are too, Pete, under Debbie's chair. Funding development of co-ops, co-op to co-op, really important. We are a big business. The Co-op Group is a £11 billion a year business with 6.6 million members. We trade with 67 countries. Our trading power is important. So last week we announced a new sourcing policy that said we would cease or stop trading with 17 countries around the world where we did not feel there was an alignment between what was happening in those countries and our cooperative values and principles. That's a really big statement for the Co-op Group to make. And then the last point I would make is, within that trading, proactively seeking to support those who need cooperation most. So I know we've got representatives from the General Union of Palestine here today. I met them earlier in the week. I've been meeting them over the last few months, and Paul Ward, I think, was here earlier, has also met them. How can we support cooperatives in Palestine, as one example, in order to help them grow the cooperative economy? And that might be through trade, it might be through investment in the union there, it might be through in-kind support, it might be through us helping them with trade, with business plans, with marketing, with source. The Co-op Group has got assets. We and our members have told us, put those assets to support those who would build peace. And that's what we're beginning to do, and I think we're beginning to make good progress.
Thank you for that, and I would agree. There's some brave actions that have been taken, which I think are good. One of the brave actions, perhaps, was also getting involved in setting up this Fund for International Co-op Development. And again, the huge smile on my face, inviting others to help shape the direction of that fund, as opposed to it is one co-op taking it in one way, whether it be Midcounties or Central or whatever. How do you see that Fund for International Co-op Development, Paul, helping over the course of the next couple of years?
I think the unique thing about the fund, well, a couple of things actually. When it's the fundamental is it's co-op to co-op, right? That's fundamentally it. Everything that we will do, be it in emergency crisis aid, be it in development or be it in trade, is co-op to co-op. So we are fundamentally building the co-op economy. When you do that, it's fundamentally internationalist. Co-ops are internationalist. And therefore, the kind of work that Francesca described, absolutely. You know, so the work that the Italian co-ops have been doing with Ukraine, and we're beginning to support that as well, is amazing. But it's the international nature of co-ops that make that really fly. So I think because of that, where do I see that fund? That fund's got to have ambition. It's got to be a multi-million-pound fund that is part of the global movement that helps those of our brothers and sisters around the world in co-ops who need our support. How do we help them most? Talking to the Palestinians over the last few months, what you see there is people who get co-ops far better than me. And I don't know what they need, but what I do know is that if we stand in solidarity with them, we can help them achieve what they want to achieve. And that's the key. The fund has got to be about solidarity, not charity.
Perfect, thank you for that. If you want to know more about the fund, by the way, it's fund.coop, which even I can remember, which is good, and we'll circulate the details afterwards. So a couple of things. A, can I have a round of applause for panellists, please, first? Now, I am deeply conscious of a couple of things. The first one is there are people in this audience who know as much, if not more than I do, much more than I do, and we would love questions to the panel. The favour, if I can, having spent quite a long time in this movement, I'm after questions and after statements that are even better if, because I think all the efforts which have been made by all four of the panellists, all the efforts I've heard this week, will really make a difference to the UN SDGs, but I think every one of us would accept we can go further. So the question in that spirit is, have we got questions to the panel? If not, I've got about another 37 questions I can rattle off quite easily. So any questions, and I might need help in seeing the hands raised. Okay, so it's a post-lunch, right, so we have one in the second round, thank you. Who is it? It's Heather, isn't it? It is Heather. Come on, Heather, ask a question. If you can just say where you're from as well, Heather. Okay.
Hi, I'm Heather and I'm Central Co-op, and I am pretty set that I want to work on the international side of cooperation. The first time I met Pete, when asked what I want to do, I said I wanted his job.
It might be available if this goes wrong, trust me.
But I'm still like doing university and that, so I'm not at the point of employment. How can I get involved? Because I feel like I know where I'm at, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to get involved, how I can help, how I can start that journey.
That is a genius question. I'm a facilitator, I'm not. So, Anchor first. We'll do the UK movement and then we'll come on to the international if we can.
I think just from our perspective at Co-op News, we love to feature opinion pieces. And if you ever wanted to write for us on something that really matters to you, that has a cooperative angle, we would love to have your feature. And also, if you ever wanted to volunteer or do anything like that, I suppose you could get in touch with different co-ops. And if you need any contacts, feel free to ask me.
Thank you. Paul, come to you next.
I think that's a great offer, and I would take her up on that offer value. I think that, I guess, focusing on particular geographies, if there's a place that you feel particularly passionate about, how can you get involved? And you might get involved with a charity or an NGO that isn't co-op specific, but I guarantee you that when you start to volunteer, support, whatever you do with them, and you start to talk about co-ops, they'll be really interested because they will know that on the ground, you know, if you were to say, I'm going to try to see what I can do to help in Sudan, I know for a fact that the way aid is organised in the refugee camps in Sudan is on the lines of co-ops and mutuality. So talking the language of co-ops for some of those geography-specific places will be really interesting. And the last thing I would say is if you want to support the campaign, the Hate Divides Communities Cooperation builds them, please find me afterwards. The more advocates, the more people we have talking about that, the importance of co-ops in building peace. Politics is a complete numbers game. And the more numbers we have, the louder we are, the more we can achieve. So do find me afterwards.
Perfect, thank you. Francesca?
Okay, so first of all, two key words. So like determination. I don't know if it's in a word in English. Yeah, okay, determination and passion. That is, I mean, the engine, no, to go ahead. And together with the geography, I think that's also thematic. So just try to understand what you really love to work, you know, like, and so women empowerment, there are no food safety. I mean, there is no award because International Development Cooperation is responding to not only, I mean, the needs, but sometimes are also the, I mean, food safety needs, you know, so you can have a very different situation. So that will be also important. And then once that you have this idea, and then you can find out about the different stakeholders also linked, of course, to the cooperative movement, the NGOs, and also government that could help and have this type of path.
Thank you. Don?
Yeah, maybe I'd like to summarize what they said by saying that just channel your passion to the right direction. And the first thing is really your own community. And we say it to the young people also in general. The first thing that you have to look to is your own community. Then you get the sense of responsibility in that while doing what you really love to do. Yeah.
Shall we... I am in one of those mischievous moves this afternoon. So, Heather, the Fund for International Co-op Development at the moment has got big businesses, big co-ops, that have put money in. The absolute passion of all of us involved, and I confess I'm a director of it as well, but equally the passion of the boards who set this thing up is to allow microfinance to enable ordinary cooperative individuals to contribute and then get involved in where should this funding go. I'm looking at my fellow Fund for International Co-op Development director saying we would welcome support from people to say, okay, how do we take that idea of how do you do microfinance and get every cooperator involved? How do we turn that into something real? So if you want to see us afterwards, you could well be seconded onto this because you can help develop that solution. Perfect. Don't minute it, whatever you say. Right, any other questions? So we've got the gentleman in the front row.
Yeah, just a question for the panel. What do you see as one of the biggest barriers for the cooperative movement being recognized and utilized in peace as a peace-building tool, and how do we think we might overcome that? Thank you.
Paul, can I start with you on that? Biggest barriers to peace building, Paul?
So I can only speak from a UK perspective, and I think it's different in different geographies, and I'd be interested in what colleagues think because they have a different perspective. Whenever I've spoken to government ministers or officials or NGOs, and you talk about cooperatives, oh yeah, they love it. They don't know anything about it. There is an underlying issue in the UK of the knowledge of the cooperative movement is really very poor. And therefore I think that's an issue. However, what is very interesting is that when you then start to talk in country in some of the most challenging places in the world, suddenly co-ops are the first solution that people go to. So in a sense, the problem isn't ours or those who are looking for opportunity. It's the middle bit of government. That's the point of the campaign. We change them by demonstrating the value co-ops have. We demonstrate the track record co-ops have in building peace. And then we make enough noise that they begin to do that. I think we can do that. We've already got some traction on this. If we can make this in the UK, certainly, a movement-wide campaign, and Midcounties have already come in and really begun to support the Hate Divides Communities campaign. If we can start to make it a movement-wide campaign, as we did with slavery, movement-wide, retail crime, movement-wide, we can begin to change where this government are. They are naturally, instinctively supportive of co-ops. We just need to point them, okay, great, that's where there can be an answer for you. That's where there can be an answer for you. So it's about us helping them get to the place that they are quite happy to get to. They just need to be helped there.
And just on that, it is fair to say there are so many in the audience today who are playing their part, and I'm looking at a couple at the moment, in changing the government narrative as well and getting the government to understand. So I think it's a good point.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. It really varies from region to region, from country to country. Two challenges I can think of are, well, the first would be the fact that people in different countries and different regions will feel differently about the word cooperative. So, for example, in Eastern Europe, I'm originally from Romania, but I was talking to We Effect as part of this issue we were producing on International Co-operative Development, and they are active in Moldova. And they were saying that it's difficult to promote cooperatives in Moldova because when they mention the word cooperative, people think of forced collectivization. And I know that's the case in Romania as well. So things are slowly changing, but a lot of people would not think of cooperatives and associate them with something positive. So because of that, they have to be quite innovative in the way in which they do things, and they have to sometimes not mention the word cooperative, but suggest something that is cooperative in nature. So that's one way they go about that. And then I think the second challenge is the fact that there are authoritarian governments around the world, and sometimes they can make it very difficult for international organizations, which they sometimes perceive as belonging to the civil society movement. They can make it very difficult for them to continue to operate in their country. So I think those are the main two challenges.
Francesca?
Yeah, I would like to underline, was saying the word peace and the cooperative movement. I think that is so important also in this recent period, because cooperative have demonstrated tool to prevent, to mitigate, also to rebuild peace process. And we have also some studies, some publication at the SEA level. I remember once that was very well done, that was done by the European Development Cooperation, that are connected with the Cooperatives Europe, so European level. And there you can find many different best practices, stories about how cooperatives could impact on the peace. And I think that we need, also in this period, to, restart a process of advocacy process about how the cooperative movement could be really a fantastic tool to maintain, to prevent conflict, to maintain peace. Also because I remember one case was Frutti di Pace, that is peace fruits, and that was also a consumer cooperatives, Italian consumer cooperatives that help Bosnia and Herzegovina after the war, not with putting together people that were before in conflicts, working together, still to have some, cooperative behavior behind and rebuild a future together. So I think that is what we need also to maintain.
And we've experienced that, and we've got examples of that in places like Rwanda, where, and I think it was referred to yesterday, where you have the perpetrators and the victims who are literally working together to provide peace.
I think for the context of Philippines, actually, a lot has been done for cooperatives in removing the barriers for building peace. But I think the only concern is for sustainability, because we have really seen once all the international funding folds, then some of the activities that are geared towards peace building activities, like increasing livelihood capacities of those in the conflict areas of the country, then it does not become sustainable. So I move forward to the solution that we're going into right now. Yep. We have the advocacy, the Chamber of the Philippines, Cooperative Chamber, that is represented in all the regions of our country and does that. Because I think when the barriers can be lifted, when you know as a cooperative what your identity is. So once we have that, then we just, do those solutions work around in those areas. Yeah.
Thank you. Paul, did you want to come in on that?
It's just one further point, and it's about the obstacles. There's the opportunity, though, which is that certainly when you talk, this is in the UK context, when you start to talk to organisations that are focused on particular areas, be it Myanmar or Rwanda or Palestine, wherever it might be, what the cooperative movement can bring, of course, is that the cooperative movement is, I said it before, is international. Therefore, absolutely, we might be a UK cooperative movement, but if you want to look at what happens in co-ops in Myanmar, the ICA provide that framework to be able to speak. So you can begin to find solutions on the ground in those areas, in principle of subsidiarity, that allows you to do that. That's quite unique. So that the global movement allows you to connect very distant places because you have fellow cooperators on the ground working to the same set of values and principles. So there is an opportunity that co-ops are uniquely placed to grab.
There's clear examples, I guess, of that at the moment. We heard about malaria last night, etc. But you've also got the CM50, which is this group of the 50 top CEOs Jerome spoke about first thing this morning, and that's one of their things. How do you do this trading amongst cooperatives? And clearly there are bodies there to do it. I think we've got time for one more question. Shirley, was that a question? Or was that, I've got time for one more question. Oh, okay, fair enough. Any more questions? There's two in the front, so we'll come to the lady in the front first if we can, and then if you will take Lee's as well, and we'll try and answer both at the same time.
Thank you. Hi, I just had a question. We talked a little bit about risk and how cooperatives have taken those risks. I was just interested in, are there any other risks that cooperatives, any other opportunities for risk that cooperatives would consider capitalising on in the future? And how would we go about doing that? Because I know there's an element of bravery involved in that, but I'm just interested to see if there's anything else.
Okay, so it's turning risks into opportunities. And Lee, did you have a question as well? Can we pass the mic to Lee as well? We'll take those two at the same time.
Yes, Lee. Are you Lee? I am Lee. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Thanks. Well, I've got sort of one question and one sort of observation, really. So the first question is, have we an opportunity to use the 6.6 million members in the UK as voices? And if we were able to do that, can we do that globally in other countries directly? And the second bit's more of an observation, and it's just listening to what's been discussed today around why perhaps the UK isn't as active or globally leading around the cooperative movement compared to other countries? Is that because there is different situations in other countries where there's a necessity to actually belong to a cooperative because of what's happening in those particular countries? How can we look at that a little bit differently within the UK? So the second bit of an observation, but the first one is more about how can we utilise those voices? And I understand that not every member wants to get involved in a political situation, but is there an opportunity there where we can utilise that? And do other countries do that?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that, Lee. So I'm going to turn first, if I can, to Donna and... Say again, Uncle, sorry. Sorry, was there one more question as well? Did I miss one more question? Right. So we just do it. So I need literally one sentence, Paul, if I can. I'm going to start with you in terms of the Lee's point about how do we mobilise members, not just co-op group members, but co-operators across the globe, across the UK and then further. How could we do that?
So the campaign that the Co-op group launched in February, we are working with Pete and others to make that a UK-wide campaign. And we know from what we did on retail crime and slavery, that can secure change. So I absolutely am confident that we can do that, but we need the movement to come together. We're not quite there yet, but we've got none of the bits. In terms of the international community, I think Pete referenced it, CM50, which is the 50 or so leaders of big co-ops and mutuals around the world, they have a plan to get to the World Social Summit in November in Doha, which is the UN's second one after the first one in Copenhagen 30 years ago, with a specific ask that says co-ops and mutuals build peace, support them. Okay, so I think it's about us getting our act together, because we know if we do, we can be convincing both domestically and globally.
And then literally in two sentences, Donna, thank you for that. Paul, if I can. The question about risks and opportunities, clearly that's what Climb have done. You've looked at the risks that are coming, particularly around sustainability, Clinton opportunity. Would you be willing to share that with other co-operators?
Of course. So in our context, we face a lot of risks. And so we do, on the business side, we think of what the members need. Like, for example, for the climate insurance that we're giving. But I think on a more important note is the risk of drifting away from the mission of being a cooperative. So that is what we are really, that's why cooperative education is very important, and we are really on it. So yeah, that's my
Thank you. So I'm massively conscious of time. So quick round of applause for the panel if I can. Francesca, with one sentence if we can.
One side, okay. I was answering for the 6.6 million member, but it's okay. We are not.
Yeah, perhaps we can do that afterwards.
One sentence. Together we can.
Perfect. And I think that's probably the theme of all of this. The one thing I think I've heard loud and clear over the last hour or so, it is this principle of facilitating self-help. It is not doing to, it's doing with and creating those conditions. And the second thing is, I've spent this week feeling more positive about the difference the co-op movement can make for those in need, and I perhaps have for many years. Just like to say thank you to the panel. So thank you.
We've got a really very brief turnaround break now while we welcome everyone back from the National Youth Summit ahead of our youth focus session and our end celebratory session. I know it's been a long couple of days and a long week for many of you, but I do urge you to stick around for what will be one of the most inspiring sessions of the weekend, learning from each other the importance of intergenerational cooperation. So that's back here for past in the main room. There's also a breakout session in the council chamber, and everyone back here for the final session, please. There's also COP councils and introduction to CCIN Policy Labs Toolkit. At 4:30, we will close with a final celebration. Everyone back in here for 4:30. But for those in the main room, back for 3:30. Thank you.